I married the crown prince. He sat by the bed all night, refusing to lift my red wedding veil, for he had another love in his heart. I promised him we would be only a couple in name. Once he ascended the throne, I would beg to be deposed as empress, and let him have his happiness. Later, he became the emperor. I took the imperial edict of deposition and mounted my horse to leave, yet he ordered the city gates closed. He came in person to the foot of the city wall, his voice raging with anger. How dare you abandon me and go to your old lover? 1. The night before, Crown Prince Li Che had gotten drunk and stumbled into my palace by accident. The thing I feared the most had finally happened. He mistook me for Xiao Qingru, pinned me to the bed, and took his pleasure in me. Afterward, the palace maid smiled and said, "Congratulations, Crown Princess, for consummating the marriage with the Crown Prince." It was the second year of my marriage to Li Che. We treated each other with the utmost courtesy, playing the part of a loving couple in the eyes of others, yet in private, we barely knew each other. As I lay down, I roused the hungover Li Che. He wrapped his arm around my waist, his voice soft, "Sister Qingru, stay with me a little longer." A sharp pain pierced my heart, and I pushed him away. I steeled myself for a long while before I could speak calmly. "Crown Prince, I am not Xiao Qingru." The man on the bed finally opened his eyes. The tenderness in them turned to cold fury, and he grabbed my arm hard. "Why is it you?" I frowned in pain. "Your concubine also wishes to ask the Crown Prince that, at the palace feast last night, Li Che had drunk a few cups of wine. He never got drunk on ordinary days, and I had thought he had touched me on purpose. Until he called Xiao Qingru's name last night, I knew then that he had made a terrible mistake. I could not push you away last night, Crown Prince. Let us pretend this never happened." His dark eyes sharpened, and he squeezed my jaw. "Su Li, I underestimated you. Only now do you show your true colors as a fox. If you ever harbor improper thoughts about me again, do not blame me for taking your life. I sentence you to the Buddhist hall to pray for Ru'er. You are not to step foot out of it without my order." I frowned slightly, yet obeyed and went to the Buddhist hall all the same. Before I left, I saw Li Che sitting at his desk. His face full of regret, he could not focus on approving memorials, and flew into a rage at his confidant. "Why did you not stop me last night? You know I have kept myself chaste for Sister Qingru for years. It is all that woman Su's fault, with her crafty schemes. I am innocent. If this ever happens again, you will come to me with your head in your hands." Ever since I entered the Eastern Palace, the Buddhist hall has been where I spent the most time. After I married Li Che, Xiao Qingru was prone to fits of jealousy. To make her smile, Li Che would send me off to this secluded Buddhist hall time and again. Li Che's maid came again. She wore a triumphant expression. "The Crown Prince says you and your maid are forbidden to eat for 3 days. And you must copy 10 volumes of the female classic of virtue." My maid refused, and an argument broke out between them. Li Che's maid's tone turned harsh. "Whether this is the Crown Prince's real order or not, this Eastern Palace is not your mistress's to rule." The noise of their quarrel grew loud. I had no choice but to put down my brush and sneer. "Tell me, who does rule the Eastern Palace?" The maid did not dare to look at me, yet her contempt was plain to see. She had served Li Che for years, ostensibly his maid, but in truth, she had long since pledged her loyalty to Xiao Qingru, waiting for her to become the mistress of the Eastern Palace, after punishing the maid severely. My gaze fell on the character Endure hanging in the Buddhist hall, and I sighed softly. 2 years ago, my father, the Prime Minister, discovered clues that the Emperor intended to exterminate the Su clan. With no way to break the deadlock, I pushed open the door and begged him to marry me to the Crown Prince. From the day I entered the Eastern Palace, the Su clan was bound to the imperial family. After much deliberation, the Emperor temporarily abandoned his plan to destroy the Su clan. On my wedding day, the entire Su family spent half their wealth on my dowry. My father held my hand, his eyes filled with reluctance. "Ali, you are my youngest daughter. If the Crown Prince treats you badly, you must tell me, so I can find a way to help you." At that time, I did not know that Crown Prince Li Che already had a love in his heart, that he had kept himself chaste for her, and would never touch me. Yet news of Li Che and I consummating our marriage last night spread to the palace. The Empress Dowager was both heartbroken and furious, for this marriage had been her edict. She came in person to the Eastern Palace to demand an explanation. Outside the Empress Dowager's chambers, Li Che and I held hands, the very image of a loving couple. His face was cold. "I will smooth this over later. You need not speak." Inside the chambers, the Empress Dowager had been ill in bed these days. She was angry, her voice cold. "I am truly a sinner. You two consummated your marriage only yesterday. If you resented this marriage, why did you not defy the imperial edict back then?" Li Che spoke first. "Grandmother, calm your anger. I and Ali have an excellent relationship." At his words, the Empress Dowager flew into a rage and threw a porcelain cup at Li Che's back. He grunted, but said nothing, her chest heaving with anger. She said, "Do not think I know nothing. You still pine for that scourge from the Xiao clan. I betrothed Su Li to you so she could live a good life with you. Who would have thought you would treat such a fine girl like this?" A dull ache settled in my chest, a faint bitterness rising. Ever since I entered the Eastern Palace, no one had spoken up for me in a long time. The Empress Dowager's gaze suddenly sharpened and fell on me. "Ali, tell me the truth. Has this rascal been bullying you often? If you have suffered any grievances, I will avenge you. Is the Crown Prince forcing you to put on this act?" Several burning gazes fell on me, among them Li Che's cold eyes, a silent warning. I masked the emotions in my eyes. "The Crown Prince treats me very well." Li Che echoed me. "Grandmother, these 2 years have been filled with internal and external troubles, and Father has sent me to relieve the disasters. I truly have had no heart for such things." I knelt there obediently, listening to his lies. In truth, every time Li Che left to relieve disasters, it was to avoid me, to let Xiao Qingru know that he had not touched me. The Empress Dowager closed her eyes heavily. "Che, before Ali married, the threshold of the Prime Minister's mansion was worn thin by suitors. She is a fine girl, no worse than anyone else. You are my eldest legitimate grandson, raised by my own hands. Before I die, all I wish for is your domestic harmony. If someone insists on inserting themselves into your marriage, then I will have no choice but to be ruthless and get rid of her for you." A flicker crossed Li Che's eyes. He held my hand and spoke solemnly, with the utmost respect. "Su Li is my lawfully wedded wife, my first wife. There is no one else but her." The someone else in the Empress Dowager's words was none other than Xiao Qingru. The daughter of Minister Xiao. Years ago, she had a falling out with Li Che. To anger him, Xiao Qingru married a county magistrate behind his back. She got her wish. Li Che fell gravely ill. While the Crown Prince was ill, the Empress Dowager was consumed with worry. Later, Xiao Qingru's husband died, and she became a widow. The two rekindled their entanglement, unable to bear his foolishness any longer. The Empress Dowager flew into a rage and issued an imperial edict for the Crown Prince's marriage. Li Che's words barely calmed the Empress Dowager. Before she left, her phoenix eyes swept sharply over Li Che. "Crown Princess, I will leave a memoir to serve you." Both Li Che and I paled. The Empress Dowager was placing a spy in the Eastern Palace. As the Empress Dowager left, Li Che and I accompanied her back to the palace. Snow was falling from the sky when suddenly, a warm cloak wrapped tightly around me. I heard the man's clear, mellow voice say, "Do not freeze, Ali." If the memoir behind us had not been secretly writing in a small notebook, I might have foolishly thought for a moment that we truly loved each other. He was very good at putting on a show, but I was not one to be outdone. Blushing, I stood on tiptoe and pressed a shy, secret kiss to his cheek. "Crown Prince, Ali is not cold." He stared in a daze for a moment, then squeezed my wrist hard. Wariness in his eyes. "Behave yourself." These small, secret gestures, in the eyes of others, looked no different from a lover's playful bickering. 3. It was not until we entered my palace chambers. Li Che's face darkened. "Su Li, you have overstepped your bounds. Did not your highness want the Empress Dowager to see this?" I lowered my eyes. "Is it permitted for your highness to play with fire, but forbidden for your concubine to light a lamp?" Li Che's anger melted away like ice thrown into a furnace, sudden and complete. He could not think of a retort, and said nothing. 4 days on end, the memoir followed me every step of the way. Li Che and I were inseparable. playing the part of a loving couple. He dined with me every day, and occasionally brought back pastries from Wangchun Tower, my favorite pastries from before I married. A maid said the crown prince had stood in the cold wind for half an hour to get them. Li Che looked up at me. Is there anything else you wish to eat? His tone was infinitely gentle, so much so that I foolishly felt as if I were being cherished in the palm of his hand. I knew full well he was only acting with me, yet my heart felt as if it had been struck hard. Against my better judgment, I spoke. Can your highness fly a kite with me? Li Che's eyes turned cold. Now, snow was falling outside the window, the coldest day of the year. Yes, my gaze was stubborn. I will go prepare the kite. The winter wind was bitter, cutting to the bone. After Li Che tripped and fell several times in the snow, he gritted his teeth under his breath. Su Li, you are taking revenge on me on purpose. My eyes crinkled with a smile. Your highness, hurry, fetch my kite for me. He felt as if he were punching cotton. Yet with the mama watching with a smile nearby, Li Che forced himself to play along with my antics. He did not hold back his words. This kite is truly absurd. Others would think the crown princess is a child. It was a kite shaped like a candied hawthorn. I stroked it gently, my voice soft. An old friend gave it to me 7 or 8 years ago. An old friend. Li Che's dark eyes deepened. He twirled it in his hands a few times, and suddenly, the kite's frame broke apart. Tears of frustration sprang to my eyes, yet he spoke casually, without a care. I am all thumbs, truly clumsy, but I can give you another one. I flew into a rage. You broke it on purpose. He raised an eyebrow. You also made me fall several times on purpose. We are even. Li Che left, triumphant. I stood there holding the broken kite, stamping my foot in anger. In truth, this kite was the one Li Che had given me when he toured the Jiangnan region incognito. When I was 7 years old, sadly, he did not recognize it. He had not remembered me. That night, a maid brought a new kite, an identical candied hawthorn one, and said timidly, "The crown prince begs the crown princess's forgiveness." I finally felt a little better. Since he had given me a new one, I would forgive him. Yet Li Che did not appear for the evening meal. Even after the dishes on the table were reheated several times. It was only then that a maid reported that he had lost the sachet I had given him while flying the kite that day, and was now sending men to search for it frantically. I set down my chopsticks, my heart in a turmoil. The mama beside me smiled. However, the crown prince cherishes the crown princess deeply. He is so frantic just because he lost the sachet you gave him. But it is far too cold outside. The crown princess ought to go fetch him back for the meal. I nodded glumly. The mama did not know I had never given Li Che a sachet. The one he wore at his waist all year round was made by Xiao Qingru. Not only that, the jade hairpin in his hair, the black boots on his feet, the jade pendant at his waist. All were crafted by another woman's hands. Urged by the mama, I went to the courtyard to find him. Li Che was leading a group of guards, digging through the snow in search. His face was blue with the cold, and even the snow dusting his whole body seemed to carry a weariness about it. I walked up to him and draped my cloak over his shoulders. Your highness, stop searching. The mama will grow suspicious. Li Che shoved me away coldly, his brows and eyes full of blame and resentment. Su Li, stop meddling in my affairs at every turn. I am putting on this act with you only to protect Rua. If you had not insisted on flying that kite today, the sachet she gave me would never have been lost. You are nothing but a jinx to me. His chest rose and fell slightly with anger, and he turned to bury his head back in the snow, digging furiously. I stumbled and fell to the ground, my hand gashed by a sharp dead branch. I frowned in pain, my heart turned cold in an instant. Truly, nothing in a pretense was ever real. I had let myself get too caught up in the act these past few days, for, after my maid bandaged my hand and lit a brazier for me, warmth finally seeped back into my body. Li Che returned. The missing sachet had been found, and he hung it back at his waist once more. His gaze fell on my hand, and he asked awkwardly, "What happened to your hand?" I did not answer, but wrapped myself in the quilt and lay down alone, leaving only my back to him. He sneered again. "You have grown quite crafty these days, even pulling the pity card today." A dull ache filled my chest. If you know it is a pity card, why ask? The man fell silent, in the darkness. I clenched the quilt tightly in frustration, my chest burning with anger. I resolved to pay him no mind ever again, because of the mama's surveillance. Li Che and I were forced to share the same chamber, yet I slept on the bed, and he on the floor. In the middle of the night, the man's suppressed, low coughs disturbed me, leaving my heart restless. It was bitterly cold. He had only one quilt to cover him, while I had 3 on the bed. I still could not bear it, and tossed one quilt over to him. But when I saw the sachet Xiao Qingru had given him lying beside Li Che's pillow, I regretted it at once. My heart ached with sorrow, and I felt I had debased myself. I hastily reached out to yank back the quilt I had given him in charity, let him freeze to death. But Li Che woke up, and clung tightly to the quilt, refusing to let go. The crown princess gives a man a quilt, then snatches it back. Let go. I frowned, displeased. Give me back the quilt. I will not. Li Che rolled over, wrapping the quilt tightly around himself and pinning it down. If the crown princess will not sleep, I still wish to. I heard a maid moving about outside, about to come in. I quickly shushed him, and lay down unwillingly. The next day, when I woke up, the quilt I had covered Li Che with the night before was inexplicably back on my bed. Our eyes met, and I saw the dark circles under Li Che's eyes. He spoke casually, his hand tightening slightly. Did the crown princess sleep well last night? I was about to say I had slept wonderfully. Before I could open my mouth, I sneezed, and my dizzy head fell forward, straight into his arms. That day, I came down with a high fever. The mama was puzzled, and her suspicions grew. The crown princess has always had a strong constitution. How could she fall ill so suddenly? I lied. I have been frail since I was a child. There are 4 brocade quilts on this bed, and a brazier burning in the room. How could you have caught cold? The mama doubted me. Did you and His Highness share the bed last night? Just as the mama was speculating, Li Che pulled me into his arms in one swift motion. It is all my fault. I was too reckless last night, and made the crown princess catch cold. The looks the people in the room shot me were ambiguous, to say the least. Only the imperial physician sighed repeatedly. His Highness is young and vigorous, brave and unparalleled, but he must still take care of his body, and not indulge too much in pleasure. Buried in the man's chest, I was too ashamed to lift my head. I do not know how long it was before Li Che pushed me away. The hall was empty, all the servants long gone. I was both embarrassed and furious. What nonsense were you talking about? Li Che's face was cold. You are my lawful crown princess, not a lover I am sneaking around with. There is no need for shame. I was too angry to bear it, and grabbed his hand, biting it hard to vent my frustration. Li Che only frowned slightly. Biting me will do no good. After I had left a jumble of tooth marks on his hand, I noticed something hidden in his sleeve. These past few days, for the sake of the act, he had sent someone to buy pastries from Wangchun Tower every day, hiding them in his sleeve to bring to me. But this time, what he pulled out of his sleeve was not pastries, but a medicine jar. I was too busy these past few days and forgot. This is contraceptive medicine for you. I remembered the imperial physician saying this medicine was harmful to the body. I shook my head. I will not take it. But the man raised an eyebrow, lifted my chin, and forced the medicine down my throat without a shred of tenderness. He said, Su Li, even if you conceive a child, I will not tolerate its existence. Do you remember what you promised me on our wedding night? I was left choking, unable to speak. How could I forget? Our wedding night should have been one of the happiest days of my life. Yet in my stupor, I heard Li Che talking to his confidant, his face dark. He said to his advisor, that woman Su cannot be left alive. Once I ascend the throne, I will surely exterminate the entire Su clan, and the position of my lawful wife will belong only to sister Qingru. That day, terrified and lost in my stupor, I knelt before him and struck a deal. I promised to play the part of his loving wife. To deceive the Empress Dowager and spare Xiao Qingrou's life, I promised to use the full power and influence of the Su clan to help him ascend the imperial throne. I promised that the day he became emperor would be the day I begged to be divorced, returning the rightful position of lawful wife to Xiao Qingru without dispute. Li Che had sneered then, everything you say benefits me. What is it you want in return? 1,000 thoughts flashed through my mind. But in the end I only said respectfully that I wanted nothing except for him to spare the lives of the 100 members of the Su clan once he took the throne. Li Che had agreed. All these years, I had kept to the rules, abiding by his every wish save for the unexpected consummation of our marriage. I refused to take the medicine only because I was menstruating, and there was not the slightest chance of my conceiving. A dull ache filled my chest, and I was too tired to explain much. Believe me or not, Your Highness, I have not a single improper thought about you. Then all the better. His tone was cold and hard. I do not wish for more trouble. Tomorrow is the Lantern Festival. I hear you used to go celebrate every year. This year, I will accompany you. With that, he flung his sleeve and left. I watched his tall, straight figure as he walked away, and my eyes stung for no reason at all. All these years, he could have treated me with nothing but empty affection. Yet why did he always let a little bit of genuine feeling seep into the pretense? It always made me think that perhaps we still had a future. 5. The day of our Lantern Festival rendezvous, Li Che had said he would come. I waited in the heavy snow for an hour. The charcoal fire in my hand warmer had long since died out, my hands numb with cold, yet it was only then that Li Che's man hurried over to tell me the Crown Prince had been delayed by business, and would not be coming. I clenched the lantern in my hand, my shoulders slumping in disappointment, yet I had to force a look of indifference. I see, the Lantern Festival is also known as the Lantern Adding Festival. On this day, the Lantern God grants the wishes of thousands of households. Standing in the crowd, I took a cinnabar brush and wrote my heart's desire on a lantern. Suddenly, a young child tugged at my skirt. Sister, I dropped my lantern in the alley. Will you come with me to find it? I followed the child to the end of the alley and saw Li Che, amid the throng of people. He held a beautiful lantern in his hand. Facing him was Xiao Qingru, their eyes locked in tender gaze, like a pair of lovers. There was a softness in Li Che's brows and eyes unlike any I had ever seen before. Sister Qingru, I made this lantern with my own hands. It is for you. But Xiao Qingru did not take the lantern. Her face was filled with sorrow, and she hesitated, as if struggling to speak. Your Highness, I am here to see you for the last time. From now on, I will do as the Crown Princess said and shave my head to become a nun. Li Che's face changed. She went to see you. My heart tightened. Do not blame the Crown Princess, Your Highness. Tears glistened in Xiao Qingru's eyes. She is your lawful wife. It is only natural that she would drive me away. Every word Xiao Qingru spoke was earnest, as if she had suffered a great wrong, yet I had never forced her to do anything. I had not even laid eyes on her in these past 2 years. Suddenly, Xiao Qingru feigned weakness and collapsed into Li Che's arms. She smiled bitterly, saying nothing. Li Che grew anxious, and could only press her maid for answers. Xiao Qingru's 2 maids knelt down together, exchanged a glance, and then began to pour out their grievances cautiously. Your Highness, save Our Lady. That day, the Crown Princess stood high and mighty before Our Lady, placing a cup of poisoned wine before her. She said Our Lady had been married before, that she had cursed her husband to death, that her entanglement with the Crown Prince was a disgrace to decency, and ordered her to die to prove her innocence. For the sake of the Crown Prince's reputation, Our Lady tried to harm herself, but we maids saved her. Li Che's fists clenched tightly. He lowered his head slowly, and pulled back Xiao Qingru's wrist. Sure enough, there was a deep, bloody gash carved into it, the flesh mangled and raw. A sense of foreboding washed over me, and sure enough, Li Che's face turned dark with rage. Is Su Li truly so vicious? He had been born and raised in the Imperial Palace, a place rife with malice and suspicion. I knew he abhorred vicious people. I could barely breathe. A voice in my heart urging me to step forward and expose the woman's true colors. But as I lifted a foot to take that step, Xiao Qingru looked flustered. Your Highness, the Crown Princess has loved you since the beginning. She schemed endlessly to marry you. You should live a good life with her. Do not ruin your happiness for my sake. The one thing Li Che could never forgive was the blind marriage forced upon him back then, the way the Su clan had outwitted him completely. And now, his anger was at its peak. Yet Li Che laughed, a cold, bitter sound. I love you for your kind and pure heart, But the Su clan is vicious to the core. To be loved by her is no honor at all. Do not speak of it again. Ice coldness seeped into every inch of my body, my hand holding the lantern trembling slightly. All my strength left me in an instant. I did not want to defend myself anymore. It turned out that from the very beginning, he had known I loved him. Yet he had trampled on my feelings step by step, all just to shower Xiao Qingru with his unique affection. It turned out he had known I loved him from the very start. Yet he trampled on my feelings step by step, all just to shower Xiao Qingru with his exclusive affection. A bone-deep chill coursed through my body, and I stood rooted to the spot for a long time, all those years of loving him in secret, and it had all been a joke. Before I knew it, the two of them were gone. I clenched the lantern in my hand and walked to the lake, where Li Che and Xiao Qingru had just set theirs afloat. I saw the words written on their lantern, clear as day. May Chiji and Qingru soon become a fairy couple, bound together for life. Chiji, his courtesy name. The characters were bold and forceful, each stroke etched with all his might, as if he meant to carve them into his bones, into his very heart. I tightened my grip on my own lantern, on which I had scrawled my wish only moments before, my handwriting just as devout. May the rivers and mountains be safe. May my husband Li Che live a long life, free from illness and disaster. I laughed bitterly. I prayed for his lifelong peace and health, while he prayed to hold his childhood sweetheart's hand for all his days. My heart ached with sorrow when a dark figure suddenly lunged at me from behind and pushed me into the lake. The loud splash alerted the people on the bank, and Li Che and Xiao Qingru both turned around while I thrashed helplessly in the water. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Xiao Qingru's mouth, yet she put on a look of panic and despair. The crown princess has fallen in. I must save her, and then she will surely forgive me. But Li Che pulled her back. He watched me with cold, unfeeling eyes. Qingru, you are far too kind. She tried to drive you to your death, yet you still speak up for her. I remember she is an excellent swimmer. Let her soak in the lake for a while. A little lesson will do her good. His hidden guards slipped away silently. Xiao Qingru nestled into Li Che's arms, her voice soft and wronged. Your Highness is so good to me. I have not misjudged you in this life. The two of them exchanged tender glances, while I froze in the icy water, my consciousness fading fast. Xiao Qingru said, as if in passing, the crown princess is usually gentle. You know, when she forced me to die that day, she kept saying it was all for your sake. And she did not torment me, Your Highness. I do not want to quarrel with her anymore. She fell into the lake just to win your pity. You should go save her. At her words, Li Che's frown deepened, his displeasure plain. Even for my sake, she had no right to force you to your death. If you had not insisted on seeing me today, I would still be in the dark. I have asked around. She can swim, very well. She is just throwing a tantrum, craving my pity. I will not fall for her tricks. Chilled water flooded my mouth and nose, choking me silent. The two of them were convinced I was putting on a show, and stood by, doing nothing. I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave. Li Che had no idea my leg had been badly injured, and I could no longer swim at all. When I still had not surfaced after a long while, doubt finally flickered across Li Che's face. He was about to send his hidden guards into the water to save me. Then Xiao Qingru suddenly whimpered in pain, clutching the gash on her wrist. Your Highness, it hurts. That single word of pain became my death knell. Li Che's gaze turned sharp, and a cruel smile tugged at his lips. He raised his voice to the crowd on the bank, his words clear and loud. The woman who fell into the lake is my concubine. I paid 100 taels of gold to redeem her from a brothel, yet she took my steward as her lover. They plotted to kill me and my lawful wife, to seize my wealth and property. Would any of you still want to save a woman like this? On the bank, the few passers-by who had been about to save me pulled back at his words, their faces twisting with disgust. They hurled ugly insults at me. Bitch, wanton whore, shameless hussy. Good riddance if she drowns, then turned and left without a second glance. Li Che pulled Xiao Qingru close in his arms, his voice soft and tender. Sister Qingru, the humiliation she brought you, I have now avenged it 100-fold. Xiao Qingru smiled. Your Highness, is this not going too far? Li Che did not care. Do not worry, she will not mind. She is utterly devoted to me, always throwing herself at me at the slightest hint of kindness." With that, he wrapped an arm around Xiao Qingru and walked away, never once looking back. 6. Drowned out by the jeers and curses of the crowd, I could hold on no longer. I had no strength left to struggle and let my body sink to the bottom of the lake. I thought I would die on this festive day of wishes and prayers, bearing the world's scorn and abuse with me to the grave. Before I lost consciousness, I heard a shout, loud and desperate, "Xiaoli!" I knew that voice. Zhao Yun, the young general who had left all those years ago, was back. A jagged sword scar marred his face, and his very breath carried the sharp tang of wind and blood from the borderlands. He lifted me into his arms, his hands trembling. "Xiaoli, I am late, I am so sorry." I had lost all warmth, and slipped into unconsciousness. I remembered the last time I had seen Zhao Yun was 5 years ago. He had risked having his legs broken by my father to ride his horse past the Prime Minister's mansion. The young man waving a spear and shouting at the top of his lungs, "Su Li, come out and see me, wait for me 5 years, and I will come back to marry you. You stay in the Su mansion and study hard. And later you can teach our children to read." "I'll never be able to do that. When I kill those barbarians and earn military merit, you won't look down on me for being a rough, reckless fool anymore, will you?" On the other side of the gate, his bold, unbridled words had left me flustered and speechless. Thinking him nothing but vulgar and crass, I ordered my guards to chase him away. The young man had cursed and grumbled, refusing to leave, his voice thick with hurt and grievance. "Xiaoli, you have a heart of stone. I'll be gone for 5 whole years, and you won't even see me off." I could stand it no longer, and ordered the gate to be opened. "Zhao Yun, stop sullying my reputation." The young man had grinned like a fool. "Then you'll have no choice but to marry me." As if I would ever marry him. A reckless brute who could barely read a single character. I loved gentle, refined men, men of literary integrity, men like the Crown Prince, reserved and wise. The man I had loved with all my heart, General Zhao. My heart was in a turmoil, and I coaxed him to leave. "Your father's army is about to march out. Hurry, and may you have a safe journey." And with that, the young man had ridden off on his horse, his heart full of contentment. That departure had lasted 5 years. In those years, the Su mansion had teetered on the brink of ruin amid the treacherous infighting of the capital, and I had long since married another. No one could have imagined that Zhao Yun would one day step foot in the imperial city, and that his first sight upon entering would be me, falling into the lake. 7. When I woke up, I was in the Zhao mansion. Zhao Yun's eyes were bloodshot, and paired with the new scar on his face. His look of wounded distress made him seem both fierce and pitiful all at once. Who is that man? What does he have that I don't? I may be a fool when it comes to books, but I'm not bad. Bad enough that you'd rather be a concubine than wait for me. I did not want to speak, and fell silent for a long time before I said, "Zhao Yun, thank you, I should go now." Staying in the Zhao mansion any longer would only brand him as disloyal and unrighteous. He and Li Che had once been close friends. But Zhao Yun's eyes turned red with anxiety. "We haven't seen each other in years, and all you can say is I hope you are well." The air hung heavy with cold silence, and my gaze drifted to the pear tree blooming quietly in the courtyard outside. For 5 years, it had been left to grow wild, rising from a mere stump to a tall, sturdy tree. The Prime Minister's mansion and the General's mansion stood side by side. Zhao Yun and I had known each other since we were children. Back then, Zhao Yun would always climb this pear tree in his courtyard to peek at me secretly, and Li Che would stand beneath the tree and mock him. "If you love her, why not marry her properly, with a formal betrothal?" But the young man had always been stubborn, scratching his head with a silly grin. "But she doesn't seem to like me." Later, my father had deliberately stood in my courtyard and caught the little rascal red-handed when he climbed the tree to peek at me. From that day on, the pear tree was cut down to nothing but a stump, barely knee-high. Then the father and son had left, and 5 years had passed. The pear tree had grown wild once more, its branches stretching high enough to see the Prime Minister's mansion in the distance, its courtyards filled with servants, peaceful and prosperous, no longer in need of my status as Crown Princess to steady the family's fortunes and keep it from falling. In these 2 years, My father had planned in secret, solidifying the Prime Minister's mansion's foundations until they were unshakable. Even the Emperor would find it no easy task to move against him now. I said I had to leave. Zhao Yun's face crumpled with grievance. Xiaoli, you've been unconscious for 3 whole days, and your husband has not come looking for you once. He even sent a wealth of snow skin ointment and scar-healing medicine to the Xiao minister's mansion in secret. I'm afraid he doesn't even know where you are right now. These past few days, Li Che had been swamped with state affairs. He did not care about me, yet he remembered the scar on Xiao Qingrou's wrist, once. News like this would have left me heartbroken, so miserable I could not eat a single bite, all because of how well Li Che treated Xiao Qingrou. Now, my heart was calm, no ripples stirring within it. Since falling into the lake, I had seen Li Che for who he truly was. There was no turning back for us now. Zhao Yun's rugged face twisted with hurt. Xiaoli, even if you don't care about yourself, you have to have a little pity for me. To see you suffer at that man Li's hands is worse than killing me. Zhao Yun had weathered 1,000 storms, yet his heart was still that of a pure, unspoiled boy. And yet, why had I been so stubborn all those years ago, loving only Li Che, never once looking at him? I smiled bitterly. I will not return to the Eastern Palace. General Zhao, pretend you never saved me. Su Li, the crown princess, has drowned and died. This was the end I had chosen for Su Li. After leaving the Zhao mansion, I only returned to my parents' home to pack a few light belongings, then bid them farewell. My father's eyes were filled with heartache. We will keep your fake death a secret for you. Do you really have to leave? I kowtowed deeply to him, my voice firm. My mind is made up. My parents did not know the grievances I had suffered all these years, and they did not dare to ask. They only prepared travel money for me, and I left with nothing but a small wooden box from my boudoir. It held the books I had loved reading as a child, and inside that small box, I found 18 letters, their paper yellowed with age, letters I had once cherished like treasure. The handwriting was bold and sharp, the words harsh and possessive. I forbid you to speak to Zhao Yun again, to smile at Zhao Yun again. If you do, I will ignore you forever this time. These were Li Che's letters. Written 7 or 8 years ago, before he had forgotten. Back then, his temper had always been fickle, stormy, and unpredictable. I folded the 18 letters carefully and decided to return them to their owner, sending them to the Eastern Palace via the post station. The day I left, heavy snow was falling outside, the road rough and uneven. I glanced back at the imperial city where I had been born and raised. I said to my maid, "Let's go, we will never come back." But we had not traveled far. And then I saw Zhao Yun. 8. It was a snowstorm unseen in 10 years. It had fallen for 3 days and 3 nights without cease. Li Che wrapped himself in a thick fur cloak and returned from the hall of political discourse. Yet he did not step down from his carriage. The eunuch accompanying him, frozen to the bone, plucked up the courage to call out, "Your Highness, we have reached the Eastern Palace. Will you enter?" Everyone in the palace knew the crown princess and the crown prince had quarreled. To punish her, the crown prince had taken up residence in the hall of political discourse these past few days. Li Che stepped down from the carriage, his mood foul. It had been 2 years since their marriage, and his crown princess had always met him after court without fail, rain or shine, bringing him pastries, asking after his health, caring for him in every little way. Today, she was not there. All these days, he had ignored her on purpose, yet today, not seeing Su Li waiting for him left an odd unease in his chest. He thought it only right for Su Li to greet him after court. This was what a good wife ought to do. Li Che's confidant stood by, hearing his lord snort coldly, his face ashen. Now that the mama's gone, she doesn't even bother to pretend anymore. With that, master and servant walked the rest of the way in silence. Li Che's hidden guard suddenly thought of the bright woman's desperate eyes as she thrashed in the water 3 days prior. He spoke to Li Che cautiously, "Your Highness, the crown princess fell into the lake a few days ago. Perhaps she is unwell, which is why she did not come to meet you. Please rest assured she still has you in her heart." At the words, a faint smile tugged at Li Che's lips, his handsome features softening, pleased by the thought, but it faded just as quickly. His expression turning cold again. her devotion to me is certain. But that does not mean she can indulge her own whims. She is my crown princess, future mistress of the 6 palaces. She ought to be gentle and kind, yet she laid a vicious hand on Qingru. I mean to punish her, to temper that stubborn streak of hers." The hidden guard said nothing, for he could not agree with his lord. He too was married, yet he never dared to show his wife a cold face. Indeed, the moment she cried, he was helpless, fearing she might take it to heart and return to her parents' home. These 2 years, his lord had treated the crown princess with extreme coldness. Every year, when rare treasures and precious gifts were bestowed upon the palace, the crown prince always sent them first to the Xiao minister's mansion. The crown princess was left with only the leavings. He had watched it all, and for some reason, felt it unfair to her, remembering the kindness the crown princess had shown him once. The hidden guard spoke again. "Your Highness, should we go to see the crown princess? What if she is truly ill, on a day this cold?" To fall into the lake and live was nothing short of a miracle. Li Che suddenly stopped walking, frowning at the guard. "Do I look idle?" In truth, the hidden guard's suggestion had never crossed Li Che's mind. In their 2 years of marriage, he had wished for nothing more than Su Li to stay far from him. When he was in his study, she would come bearing warm snacks in winter or cool refreshments in summer, and he loathed these little ploys of hers. He was not a man of wavering resolve. He loved Xiao Qingru, and his eyes could hold no one else, not even Su Li, the only woman who had ever shared his bed. Yet he was a man, and he was the crown prince. Even if he had a child with Su Li, Xiao Qingru would have to accept it. At the thought, Li Che felt a faint urge to see this wife of his, bound to him by a matchmaker's word. Had she been angry with him for falling into the lake that day? But Su Li was always so easy to coax. Once, a hairpin he had painstakingly prepared for Xiao Qingru had been rejected. He had tossed it to Su Li without a second thought, and she had accepted it, wearing it every day, her beauty bright as a crabapple blossom in spring. He missed her, a little. After flipping through a few memorials, Li Che's heart grew restless, and he said, "I am hungry. Tell the crown princess to stew a mutton soup and bring it here." He took out a bracelet one Xiao Qingru had cast aside a few days prior, its jade clear and translucent. He was in a good mood today. He would coax her, just a little. An incense stick later, Su Li's personal maid hurried over, her face filled with worry. "Your Highness, is the crown princess with you?" She has not been in the Eastern Palace for 3 days. For 3 whole days, no palace maid had seen Su Li. Her maid only knew that on the night of the Lantern Festival, the crown princess had dressed herself with great care and gone to meet Li Che alone. A sense of foreboding washed over Li Che. His hand on the desk trembled slightly, and he thought again of her eyes, begging for his help as she floundered in the water. That day, though he had left with Qingru, he had sent a maid to stand watch. The maid had not disturbed him, and he had assumed Su Li had returned to the Eastern Palace, meek as ever. Until he learned of her disappearance. Only then did he discover that the maid had swallowed gold and died 3 days prior, her body cold and stiff in her chambers. Li Che felt a flicker of panic, yet he refused to believe his worst fears. In his haste, he rode to the Prime Minister's mansion alone. With no retinue, Su Li must have returned to her parents' home. He would simply bring her back. 8. At the gate of the Prime Minister's mansion, Prime Minister Su hung white lanterns from the eaves with trembling hands, while his wife wept beside him. When Li Che arrived, Prime Minister Su bowed to him politely, tears glistening in his cloudy eyes. "Your Highness, where is my daughter?" The old lady knelt too, her voice broken. "We heard our little girl is dead. The Eastern Palace hides it away and will not hold a funeral for her, so this old woman has no choice but to do it herself." The 2 elders wept, their grief raw and unbearable. Li Che stood rooted to the spot, his face cold and impassive, yet only he could feel the dull, sharp pain, like a blade slowly flaying him alive from the inside. He did not love Su Li, so why did he feel this agony? He remembered the last time Prime Minister and Lady Su had stood before him together. It was on Su Li's wedding day. They had given a dowry of 10 li of red silk, begging him to care for their daughter well. But back then, his heart had been with Xiao Qingru, fearing she would be sad, and he had paid no heed to their pleas. That day, He had taken Su Li's hand in a hasty grasp and brought her back to the Eastern Palace, on their wedding night. He could not even remember what expression she had worn when she first saw him. These 2 years, Su Li had never seemed truly happy, a perpetual listlessness lingering in her eyes and brows, but he remembered how she had smiled. Once, when they first met, Li Che's body trembled slightly. The 2 white lanterns on the eaves seared his eyes, making him want to tear them down and shred them to pieces. He heard his own stubborn voice as he helped Prime Minister Su to his feet. Su Li is not dead. I will find her. She is merely angry with me, hiding away. Could Su Li even be angry? Li Che was not sure. He could not recall ever seeing her throw a tantrum. She was always there, quiet and patient, waiting for him to return to the Eastern Palace. After leaving the Prime Minister's mansion, Li Che ordered his secret guards to investigate. None of the people who had seen Su Li fall into the lake had dared to save her. Li Che's rage threatened to boil over. How dare no one save the crown princess of the realm? He wanted to berate them for their coldness, their indifference. Suddenly, a woman fell to her knees in despair, her voice firm and clear. Your Highness, it was you who said the crown princess was a concubine who took the steward as her lover and plotted to seize your wealth. That is why no one dared to save her. Another person knelt, begging for mercy. Your Highness, it was not just us who saw the crown princess fall into the lake, you were there too. A third knelt. Please show mercy, Your Highness. Let the crown princess rest in peace in the afterlife. The crowd nodded in unison. An invisible thorn pierced Li Che's heart. No one accused him outright. Yet he felt as if 1,000 fingers pointed at him, as if the whole world condemned him. He was the crown prince, the future emperor, who dared to judge him, after locking himself in his chambers for a night. Li Che made a decision. He would find her, alive or dead. The once-in-a-decade snowstorm blanketed the imperial city, and the lake where Su Li had fallen was frozen solid, 10 feet thick. Li Che led a host of secret guards there, digging furiously through the ice. He had not closed his eyes in 2 days. He still had not found her. 9. The snow fell fiercely. Su Li's body was never found. Yet Li Che fell gravely ill. In his fevered sleep, he caught a whiff of a faint, delicate fragrance. It was the scent of Su Li. That night they had shared their first night together. He had loved that scent. He wrapped his arms around the figure beside him instinctively, yet when he woke, it was Xiao Qingru in his embrace. His expression froze. Why are you here? At his words, Xiao Qingru's heart seethed with hatred. She had plotted every step carefully, and had been mere moments from killing that bitch Su Li, thinking she would finally wait for Li Che to marry her. Yet half a month had passed. She had sent Li Che several letters, and heard he had not even bothered to open them. Xiao Qingru had no choice but to find a way to see him herself. First, she had gone to Su Li's palace and used her perfume, then dabbed a little love potion on her skin. She had come to Li Che's sickbed, determined to seal their fate, to make what was raw into something cooked. If she succeeded, she would take a fertility pill. And her ascension to the mistress of the Eastern Palace would be only a matter of time. If her plot was exposed, Xiao Qingru could still frame Su Li, saying she had accidentally used Su Li's perfume, that Su Li had once harbored evil intentions and drugged the perfume to ensnare him. It was a plan that killed 2 birds with 1 stone, so clever that even Xiao Qingru thought herself brilliant. Yet when she stood by Li Che's bed, he had murmured that bitch Su Li's name in his delirium. Xiao Qingru's hatred blazed, yet she showed no trace of it on her face. She smiled bitterly. Your Highness, I worried for you, so I came to visit despite the gossip and rumors. I was foolish to presume your affection. If you do not wish to see me, I will not stay and mar your sight. With that, she brushed a fake tear from the corner of her eye and turned to leave, only for the man to grasp her wrist tightly. It is not that I do not wish to see you. On any other day, he would have been overjoyed. Xiao Qingru had once again risked her reputation to break into the Eastern Palace, all for the sake of his illness, but Su Li had lost her life because of them. He could not find an ounce of joy in it. Xiao Qingru was the woman he loved. At the thought, Li Che's heart softened. If only a little. Once, he had wanted to marry her with all his heart, to risk everything for her. Li Che pulled Xiao Qingru gently into his arms. listening to her words of longing and yearning, yet his mind wandered, far away. Xiao Qingru made up her mind then and there she must destroy Su Li completely. She put on a look of sorrow and grief. Your Highness, I hid something from you once. Now that the crown princess is gone, I do not wish to hide it any longer. I married in such a hurry back then because I was with child. That county magistrate's son was a pupil of my father's, he drugged me, and I had no choice but to marry him. Li Che frowned. I do not care about that. He was not a rigid, old-fashioned man. Such things meant nothing to him. Besides, Xiao Qingru was an innocent young woman. He ought to pity her, to cherish her. Your Highness, let me finish first. Seeing him take the bait, Xiao Qingru cast her biggest lure. Later, my late husband accidentally let it slip while drunk that he was a cousin of Prime Minister Su. He married me to pave the way for Su Li to become crown princess. Your Highness, your marriage was also a pawn in Prime Minister Su's hands. Her words were a mix of truth and lies. It was true that the county magistrate was a cousin of Prime Minister Su, but she had been blinded by foolish passion back then, had taken the magistrate's son as her lover, and had fallen pregnant by accident. Her parents had forced her to marry him. But who was Li Che? He was the crown prince. Raised from childhood to be the heir to the throne, he hated nothing more than being manipulated by his ministers. True or false, doubt would take root in his heart, not only for Su Li, but for the entire Su clan. Li Che would hold a grudge against them all. Li Che's face remained calm, yet the tremor in his dark eyes betrayed his loathing. Let bygones be bygones. You have been wronged. Xiao Qingru fed him his medicine gently, then bid him farewell with obvious reluctance. Your Highness, I must go now. Remember to read the letters I sent you. After she left, Li Che's eyes grew deep and dark, the faint scent of pear blossom lingering in the air. He had known it all along. Prime Minister Su and Su Li had resorted to extreme measures, marrying their daughter to him for their own gain. That was why he had treated Su Li so poorly these 2 years. But hearing Xiao Qingru say it out loud had woken him fully, completely. He owed the Su clan nothing. He owed that bright-eyed, vivid woman nothing either. The lamp in Li Che's study burned all night. When his confidant thought he would sit there alone till dawn, he heard the crown prince say, "Tomorrow, go to the palace and announce the funeral. Say the crown princess succumbed to a cold and passed away. Find a corpse as a substitute, and bury her with full honors." The window had opened unawares. Cold wind rushed in. He could not tell if it was the wind that chilled him, or his own body. He only knew he ached, deep down. From that day on, the whole world knew Su Li was dead. He had no crown princess anymore. Li Che remembered Xiao Qingru's complaint that he never read her letters. He rubbed his throbbing brows tiredly and ordered the unopened correspondence of the past few days to be brought to him, and those 18 letters fell out, sudden and unbidden. 10. The day Su Li left, Zhao Yun blocked her path on the snow-covered road, refusing to let her go. Where are you going? Su Li knew he would not let her leave without a fight. She did not answer. She planned to go somewhere far from Li Che. She was the finest Su embroidery artisan in the land, and she could bake the most exquisite pastries. She would survive in this world. But Zhao Yun's eyes reddened, and he said, "Xiaoli, there is no Li Che in the southern borders either. There is only me. Will you come?" Su Li sat behind the curtain of the carriage, which shielded her from the wind and snow outside and from him. Her earrings swayed slightly as she spoke. "Zhao Yun, I do not wish to bring you harm, compared to standing before 1,000 armies for you. Longing is a far crueler torment. I cannot bear it." Zhao Yun waved his spear, flicking the reins to set her horse free. His gaze was unshakable. "You need do nothing. Merely be a commoner in my city, under my protection. Merely a protected commoner, not his wife, not his concubine, not a bird in a cage." This was always how he was. He looked like a reckless brute, yet his heart was as delicate as a hair's breadth. Tears stung Su Li's eyes unbidden. She lifted the carriage curtain, locking gazes with the rugged young general. Very well. Zhao Yun had only been recalled to the capital for a month. Su Li waited for his army to march back to the southern borders, disguised as a young servant boy at his side these days. Zhao Yun had investigated the night she fell into the lake. And the clues had all led to Xiao Qingru, who had deliberately sent a child to lure Su Li to the lake, then seized the chance to push her in. Zhao Yun's rage blazed. "I will avenge you. I will make her pay for this." But Su Li smiled, and said, "I am afraid, Li Che already knows." Li Che was not a fool. He had seen the oddities, the inconsistencies, and he would have sent his secret guards to investigate. It was merely his habit. No matter how great a mistake Xiao Qingru made, he turned a blind eye. He tolerated her jealousy, her viciousness, her endless scheming. Once, Li Che had not been like this. Once, Li Che had only ever been kind to Su Li, even after he lost his memory. She had walked 99 steps toward him alone, but the 100th step left her battered and broken, and she had no choice but to turn away. So when Su Li heard that Li Che had announced to the world that Crown Princess Su Li had died of an illness, she finally felt the stubborn longing in her heart lift. Completely and utterly, Su Li no longer existed in this world, and Li Che had decided to cover for Xiao Qingru, with a single line in the history books, "died of illness." Days passed like flowing water, and Zhao Yun's army was soon to depart. Zhao Yun brought her a horse, saying, "Come, I remember you loved riding the most." But the woman smiled gently, and said, "I have an old injury in my leg, I have not ridden in a long time." Zhao Yun had been gone for 5 years. He did not know of the incident 4 years prior when the crown prince had been attacked during the autumn hunt, and Su Li had thrown herself in the way to save him, wounding her leg grievously. After that, Li Che had been poisoned, and bedridden for half a month. Su Li had dragged her injured leg up 1,000 stone steps, kowtowing every step of the way, praying at the Buddha's feet for his safety. She had vowed to trade everything she had, for Li Che to live. From that day on, her leg had never fully healed. Left with a permanent ailment, later, Li Che had recovered from the poison, but the toxin had seeped into his mind, and he had forgotten her. When they met again, he had been flying a kite with Xiao Qingru, and he had said, "My heart has always felt empty, as if a part of it is missing, until I met you, Sister Qingru. I love you." Su Li did not wish to speak of these things anymore, for the one who needed to hear them the most had long since forgotten her. Zhao Yun did not know what had happened, but he saw the sorrow in her eyes. His heart ached, and he pulled her into a tight embrace. "Xiaoli, I will never let you suffer again. You do not misunderstand." Zhao Yun coughed awkwardly, trying to hide his embarrassment. "I treat all my brothers like this. Besides, the crown princess is dead. You are not Su Li anymore." 11. Zhao Yun's army set off, but on the road, they met an unexpected guest. Li Che, dressed in black, rode his horse and blocked their path. His dark eyes were sharp as a blade. "Zhao Yun, I have business with you." It had been nearly 5 years since they last met. There was no warm reminiscing between them. Li Che cut straight to the chase. "We were close, when we were young." Zhao Yun poured him a cup of tea, his tone casual and unconcerned. "What does your highness wish to ask? Do you remember that I once loved Su Li?" Li Che's voice was calm. "But no one knew his heart was as cold and empty as a grave, that we once shared a deep love, in our youth." He held the 18 letters in his arms, each one brimmed with his longing, his desire, his fear of losing her, emotions he had never known he was capable of feeling, and the handwriting was undeniably his. He had loved Su Li, once. He had made 2 vows before the Imperial Mausoleum, all those years ago. One, to be an emperor whose legacy would last for eternity. The other, to marry Su Li and make her his wife for life. Zhao Yun laughed. "Your Highness, listen to this." To avenge Su Li, Zhao Yun recounted every detail of Li Che and Su Li's time together as young lovers, as if reciting a well-known tale, a match made in heaven. By birth and by heart, they had been meant for each other. He had been brooding and suspicious, she bright and wise, in an age where parental orders were absolute. They had been fortunate enough to have their parents' blessing, and they had loved each other deeply. "Li Che, I envied you, once." Zhao Yun smiled, a bitter smile. "But never mind, why does your highness speak of a dead woman?" Li Che's eyes reddened, suddenly and violently. In truth, he had remembered everything, long ago. But the moment he laid eyes on Xiao Qingru, he had thought she was the one he was meant to love. It was his fault, his damnable, unforgivable fault, and now everyone was telling him that this love, this devotion, should have belonged to his lawful wife, Su Li. But she was dead. In the end, Li Che's shoulders slumped, and his heart was filled with utter confusion. I was wrong. I wonder, if I meet her in the underworld, will she ever forgive me? She will not, Zhao Yun smiled. Because she never wishes to see you again. 12. Li Che left. Before he went, his eyes were red, his hair messy and unbound. I will not let those who hurt Xiaoli go unpunished. I will make them pay with their lives, a death too kind for their crimes. He left Zhao Yun covered in wounds, lying on the bed, unable to move. Su Li sighed, and said, "Why must you provoke him?" But Zhao Yun grabbed her arm tightly, his fingers digging into her skin. "Xiaoli, I am strong, too. I merely let him win. The crown prince remembers everything now. Do you wish to go back to him?" I froze, then shook my head, my resolve unshakable. I married him of my own free will. All those years ago, but I never walk back the road I have taken. 3 days later, I rode away with Zhao Yun, on horseback. Shortly after we left, the Xiao clan was discovered to have colluded with foreign enemies. The entire clan was exiled. The evidence was a secret letter found under the pillow of Minister Xiao's daughter. While Xiao Qingru still dreamed of becoming crown princess, Li Che personally led the raid on her home and arrested her entire family. Xiao Qingru begged Li Che for mercy, but the crown prince, who had doted on her once, turned his back on her without a second thought. He held her down in the icy water, nearly drowning her. Li Che sneered, his voice cold and cruel. "In this life, you will not die an easy death. You cannot die without my permission." From that day on, she was locked in the stables, flogged and tortured every single day. She suffered for 60 long years, before finally succeeding in biting off her own tongue and dying. When Li Che ascended the throne as emperor, he took countless concubines and palace maids into his harem, but he fathered no children, not a single heir. In the end, he chose a young boy from the imperial clan to raise as his own, naming him the crown prince. For decades, I lived as an embroidery artisan in the southern borders, and never once returned to my homeland. Later, Emperor Li Che passed away. Before his death, Zhao Yun came to see me. He said, "Xiaoli, do you wish to go back to see him one last time?" I focused on the needle and thread in my hands, my fingers moving steadily, and shook my head. "No, I have not yet finished my work." After Li Che died, he was not buried in the imperial mausoleum. Instead, he ordered his tomb to be built by Chaotian Lake, the very lake where Su Li had fallen. All his ministers objected, but the new emperor produced Li Che's final imperial edict and silenced all dissent. And then, many years later, Zhao Yun left this world, too. I lived an extraordinarily long life. As the years passed, fewer and fewer people in this world knew who I was. They only knew an old embroidery artisan with incomparable skill, who lived on 10 Lee Street. The year I died, a young man walked into my shop. He pointed at my red wedding veil. Its colors faded with time yet still bright and striking, and smiled. "Old madam, my fiancé wishes to have this veil of yours." I chased him away, in a foul temper. But the young man came to visit me every single day. After that, he chopped wood for me, fetched water, and helped me run the shop. Half a year passed. I looked at him, my face still cold, and said, "It is not that I am unwilling to give it to you. This is my wedding veil, from the day I married. And I lived my entire life as a widow, in all but name." The young man smiled again, and said, "I do not mind. My love for her is unbreakable, stronger than any storm or hardship." My face, which had been stern for so many years, softened a little. "If you need it, take it." The young man left an ingot of gold on the counter, kowtowed to me, and turned to leave. "Wait," I called out to him. "What is your surname?" The young man did not turn back. He only left a single sentence, and walked away. "My grandfather's surname is Li, so I am Li, too." That day was a winter day. The sunlight fell on me, warm and gentle, and I felt a faint daze come over me. I slowly closed the door of my embroidery shop. I had lived a long life. It was time for me to go to the underworld.